Radhe Devi Sachavachai Namo Namaha. Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Nava Om Vishnu Padai Krishna Pastai Guru Vaishya Navatu Swami Stasis Vadavidam Stasis Nivadi Vaishnavi. We offer our most respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Jai. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhu vyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Okay. We may not get to the Bhagavatam, but just put it up there in case. So today is a very special day in the Vaishnava calendar. Thank you. 3 different occasions that we are commemorating. One, of course, is the Snana yatra, and the others are the disappearance day of Mukunda Datta and the disappearance day of Sridhara Pandit or Kholaveca Sridhara. So we have quite a bit of information about all 3 things. So we may not get to the Bhagavatam, but we're going to chant the prayers to the departed Vaishnavas before class in honor of Mukunda Datta and Kholaveca Sridhara. Jayanilo Premadana Karuna Pracho Henu Prabhu Kotak Gelacharya Thakur Henu Prabhu Kahamora Saruprupa Kaha Sanatan Kakadasa Raghunatha Bhatita Bhavan Kahamora Bhatta Juga Kaha Kavira Ekakale Kotakela Goranatadra Ashane Kutivo Manta Anale Pasivo Goranga Gunera Nidhi Kotagere Habo Sabha Sangira Sange Ye Koilo Vilas Se Sangana Paya Kande Narotamodas Yehanilo Prema Dana Koruna Prachur Jaya Jaya Thakur, Jaya Jaya Thakur, Jaya Jaya Thakur, Jaya Jaya Thakur. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya, also Teta Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Charana Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Friends, say Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Lasa Devi Ki Jai, Samadhita Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivasesa Shinyavadi Paschatcha Deja Tarane. So I'm going to read the translation to this poem by Narottam Das Thakur. And Prabhupada instructed us to chant this song on the commemoration of the disappearance days of great devotees. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where is such a personality as Srinivas Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga accompanied by all these devotees, in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottama Das simply weeps. So as I mentioned, today is the disappearance day of Mukunda Datta, is the disappearance day of Kholaveca Sridhara, and it is also the Snana yatra of Lord Jagannath. So, we'll talk about the Snana yatra of Lord Jagannath first. That'll be very short. So, Om Ganat Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. So, every year before the Rath Yatra, 14 days before the Rath Yatra, there's this ceremony called the Snana yatra. The Snana yatra means the bathing ceremony. Now, it's the bathing of Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, in which they literally bathe the deities. Generally, you don't bathe wooden deities, But during this Snana yatra, they bathe the deities. And the reason for the ceremony, there's both esoteric and exoteric reasons. The exoteric reason is, of course, it gives them an opportunity to repaint the deity and refurbish the deity during that time. And that's for 14 days. But really what's happening, I mean, there's another exoteric reason, and then we'll get to the real esoteric reason. Really what's happening is that, this is another exoteric, apparent reason, is that Lord Jagannath gets bathed and he gets sick. And the devotees are in a lot of anxiety. They're sending him cards, please get better. They're making different teas to offer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And an anxiety, waiting for him to appear. Like with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during this period, when Lord Jagannath was apparently sick, he went to Taranala, which is some distance away from the Jagannath temple, because he couldn't bear separation from Lord Jagannath. And when the end of this period occurred, he actually went in, and during the Bhoga offering to Lord Jagannath, he actually observed the Bhoga offering. So anyway, that's one reason for this period, Anavasa, in which Lord Jagannath is apparently sick after the bathing. But another reason, the most esoteric reason, is that Lord Jagannath is making believe he is sick so he can actually have some QT, quality time with Lakshmi, with Lakshmi. So during that time, he's having this quality time with Lakshmi, and I'm not going to tell the whole story about the Rath Yatra because that's for a different time. He starts to remember the residents of Vrindavan, because Lakshmi and the wives of Lord Jagannath are expansions of the gopis in Vrindavan. So after this 2 weeks, he decides to go for a walk, and that walk is the Rath Yatra ceremony. And that walk is ostensibly to go to the Gundicha temple, which represents Vrindavan. And the goddess of fortune, she's not aware that he's actually going to the Gundicha temple to see his girlfriends in Vrindavan. But in any case, and then there's this whole Lakshmi Vijaya ceremony where Lakshmi, after 9 days or 5 days, whatever, she has her associates attack the associates of Lord Jagannath in an attempt to bring him back. And then there's the return Rath. Anyway, so we'll talk more about that during the actual day of Rath Yatra. So, in addition, today is the disappearance day of Mukunda Datta Thakur and the disappearance day of Kholaveca Sridhara. So let's talk about Mukunda Datta first. Because Mukunda Datta is, along with his brother, they were actually considered two of the singers for Krishna in Vrindavan, Madhukanta and Madhuvrata. And his brother's name was a very famous devotee, Vasudev Datta Thakur. And Vasudev Datta Thakur is renowned for his compassion for all the living entities, his willingness to suffer eternally so that everybody else can be liberated. So he was a very, very dear associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was a classmate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in school. And Mukunda was very expert in logic and rhetoric. So he had several encounters with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was very expert in logic but had not studied rhetoric. Rhetoric means like speaking. Logic means, the rules of logic. A, therefore B, and then if you have A, then you have B. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the rules of logic. But there's different rules of logic. We talk about induction, deduction, and other aspects of logic. But Lord Chaitanya was very expert in this. And Lord Chaitanya, whenever he would confront Mukunda, he would try to defeat him, and he did defeat him using logic. So one day, he challenged Mukunda to a debate in rhetoric, which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not studied. And then Lord Chaitanya was able to give all the correct answers in spite of not having studied it. So this is all before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation from Ishwara Puri. So before he took initiation from Ishwara Puri, he didn't display his devotional inclinations, at least publicly. And this is an important lesson for us because it shows us the importance of accepting the spiritual master in order to attain Krishna consciousness. And of course, previously we've been talking about the story of Raghunath Das Goswami, who couldn't approach Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at least who couldn't reside with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, until he got the mercy of Lord Nityananda, and Lord Nityananda is the original spiritual master. So, but even before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his pastimes as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest devotee of the Supreme Lord in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Mukunda Datta was manifesting his personality as a great devotee of the Lord. In fact, he was famous for singing, and Advaita Acharya and Srivas Thakur would continually invite Mukunda Datta over to chant. And it's described, when they heard his singing, the Vaishnavas would roll on the ground in ecstasy, and Advaita Acharya would cry in joy, and even take Mukunda Datta on his lap. So Ishwara Puri, at one particular point, visited Mayapur, and he also appreciated the devotional ecstasies of Mukunda Datta. And all the devotees, of course, understood that Ishwara Puri was connected with Madhavendra Puri because of his manifestations of love of God. So, after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation in Gaya from Ishwara Puri and returned to Navadvip, and he never discussed logic or grammar or anything like that again, at least not in a challenging way, with the devotees in Mayapur. He came back completely changed. And Mukunda would sometimes chant for him at this point. And when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard Mukunda's kirtan, he would fall on the ground, completely unconscious, rolling on the ground. Mukunda Datta is also famous because he was the one who invited Gadadhar Pandit to see Pundarik Vijayanidhi. And there's this whole interesting story which we've told before, which we can tell again, that Pundarik Vijayanidhi is the incarnation of Vrishabhanu, who is Srimati Radharani's father. So Pundarik Vijayanidhi was also a very wealthy gentleman externally, and he was dressed, in so much finery, had his hair slicked back with different types of oil and had perfume, and he was chewing pan. So what happened is that Mukunda knew that he was a great devotee of the Lord. Mukunda actually didn't get confused by seeing the external manifestations of Pundarik Vijayanidhi. So he invited Gadadhar Pandit, please come and see Pundarik Vijayanidhi. And so Gadadhar Pandit very enthusiastically came because he thought he was going to see a great devotee of the Lord. But when he saw Pundarik Vijayanidhi, he thought, this is not a great devotee of the Lord, because a great devotee of the Lord would not be enjoying opulence like this. A great devotee of the Lord is naturally, what is it? Vairagya Vijayanija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartha Eka Purusha Purana. Great devotee of the Lord must be very renounced from this material world and not looking like a material sense enjoyment. Also, it's described that one shouldn't judge a Vaishnava by external appearances. One has to be very, very careful. Sometimes you may see a Vaishnava who appears wretched. He's wearing torn clothes, and you may think, oh, he's just a bum. Or you may see a Vaishnava who's dressed very opulently with a tie and a jacket nowadays, of course. In those days, they didn't have ties and jackets, at least not that I know of. But in any case, one should not judge a Vaishnava by the external appearances. But Gadadhar Pandit was judging Pundarik Vijayanidhi by the external appearances, and Mukunda understood Gadadhar Pandit's mentality, so he began to chant a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam describing the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when Pundarik Vijayanidhi heard that verse, he swooned in ecstasy. Not only swooned in ecstasy, it's described that he basically almost tore apart all the sheets of the bed, the opulent bedstead that he was sitting on, and his hair became in disarray, and he went completely unconscious. And Gadadhar Pandit understood that he had made a big mistake, and he waited until Pundarik Vijayanidhi came back to external consciousness, and at that particular point, he begged him to give him initiation. So Mukunda Datta was responsible for connecting Gadadhar Pandit Goswami with Pundarik Vijayanidhi. So there's another very interesting story. During what was called the Mahabhava or Mahaprakash Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which lasted for 21 hours, Lord Chaitanya was calling for all the various devotees and describing their previous lives and giving them mercy. But he didn't call upon Mukunda. And he was sitting outside, Mukunda was sitting outside, waiting to be called by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Srivas Thakur went to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he said, "Why are you not calling Mukunda?" And Lord Chaitanya said, "Mukunda is not sincere. He's not going to get my mercy." The devotees asked, "What is Mukunda's fault?" So Lord Chaitanya was upset that he was so liberal. Mukunda was so liberal, he was going to different assemblies. You know, just like if one of us were going to different, let's say, Bhagavad Saptahas, which were meant for simply entertaining people. I was just listening to a class that Srila Prabhupada was giving about Bhagavad Saptahas. He's really heavy about the whole thing. He said, it's never mentioned in the Bhagavatam, other than Maharaj Pariksit hearing from Shukadeva Goswami for 7 days. It's never mentioned that one should do Bhagavad Saptahas. And Prabhupada just really, lambasted the people who are doing it for ulterior purposes. Of course, sometimes in ISKCON we may advertise that to bring people in. But Prabhupada said that we should hear the Bhagavatam from the beginning, from the first canto up to the 10th, and then the 11th and 12th canto, Nityam Bhagavata Sevya, not simply for 7 days. So Prabhupada was really heavy about that. So let's say if someone discovered that I was going to, different materialistic Bhagavad Saptahas and just crying and everything like that. And so Mukunda was going to all these different Vaishnavas who were speaking, and some of them might have had some Mayavadi tendency. I mean, sometimes people have to be careful, just like Prabhupada even commented that the Ramacharita Manasas, Tulsidasa's Ramacharita Manasas, has a tinge of some Mayavadi tendency in it. So Prabhupada wanted us to read from the Valmiki Ramayana instead, which is the authorized Ramayana. So anyway, because Mukunda Datta was liberal, that's the whole point. So Lord Chaitanya said, when Mukunda goes to the assembly of knowledgeable persons, he supports them. Those who ignore my swarup insult me. In other words, there must have been some assembly he went to where they actually didn't properly understand, appreciate, or describe Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's exalted position. Those who were devoted to my swarup, my form, my nature, who I am, make me happy. To show their humbleness and devotion to me, they cry and hold grass between their teeth. Those who speak against me sometimes and worship me other times, They are insincere hypocrites. So he's calling Mukunda Datta an insincere hypocrite. Lord Chaitanya understands that Mukunda Das was just liberal. They cannot be blessed by my mercy. Mukunda was so shocked that he decided to commit suicide at that point. Srivas Thakur got very worried and explained that Mukunda is feeling very repentant. What can he do? And Lord Chaitanya said, Mukunda will be blessed by me after millions of births. So, if I heard that, you'll become Krishna conscious after millions of births, I say, well, forget it. Give up. Let me go back to work. No, whatever. Go back to mommy. But Mukunda, understanding, utsahan nistya dharya tat karma pavartana. The quality of devotee is enthusiastic and patient. Two important qualities. One should be willing to wait for a long time. Sometimes devotees come to me after 10 years in the Krishna conscious movement. They say, I'm not having ecstasy. I haven't understood my spiritual body or my spiritual nature yet. It doesn't work. Well, it does work, but you got to be patient. Just like when you're growing up, you got to be patient. You can't just demand that one day you're going to be 6 feet tall. So, anyway, Lord Chaitanya said, after millions of births, Mukunda began dancing joyfully. And he said, I will be able to get his darshan after millions of births. Haribol! And he started rolling on the ground in ecstasy. Would any of us do that if we were told? It's like we were speaking to Mother Krishna Priya yesterday. There is that a few million births you'll actually get to understand your spiritual nature. She would say, this is the most depressing conversation I ever had with you, Maharaj. It's a few million births. Millions of births. And so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he heard that Mukunda Das was in ecstasy like this, he asked Srivas to bring Mukunda to him. And he couldn't, Mukunda was making so much noise that Srivas couldn't get through to him. He said, Mukunda, be quiet. Because he's going, I'm in ecstasy. Haribol, Haribol. Haribol, Haribol. And he says, shh, quiet, Lord Chaitanya's calling you. And Mukunda was so humble at that point, he said, Pandit, what are you saying? Prabhu was calling me. I'm not going to go in here with my sinful body. I will pass millions of births crying for him. It's also the humility, Dainu, isn't it? So it's so many different qualities of pure Vaishnava there. And actually, Prabhupada even said in one poem, I have no hope for direct service for the coming sojourns of birth. So many births. So this has to be a devotee, Ashabanda, hope against hope. But in any case, it's just like we get a chance to serve Krishna. And then when you realize your spirit, when you're ready to realize your spiritual identity, deserve, then desire. It'll happen. Not prematurely. So anyway, finally, he went to see Lord Chaitanya, and Mukunda said, my Lord, I'm a very sinful person. I cannot utter any devotional words. I am disgusted as I have no devotional feelings. This is really important to feel like that. I have no devotional feelings. And actually even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if I love Krishna, how would I be able to live? Feeling this separation. Lord Chaitanya's prayer, Yugayatam nimishena chakshusha pravashayitam shunyayitam jagat sarvam. Feeling your separation, I'm considering not just like 12 years or more, but yugaitam, like a yuga, maybe a divya yuga. You know, that's, in other words, how could one live? So anyway, so I am disgusted as I have no devotional feelings. Duryodhana was able to see your Visvarup, which all the Vedas are searching after. Still, Duryodhana died along with his whole family because he was devoid of devotion. Then Mukunda began to cry loudly again. And this is a quote. Lord Chaitanya embraced him and said, Mukunda, previously I said that you would be able to achieve me only after millions of births. But due to your firm determination, faith, and profound respect, you've completed that time within 1 second. Wow. You are my dearly beloved devotee. I have never done anything sinful. I perform this pastime only to teach the world your glories. Wherever and whenever I appear, you will always be there as my singer. So sometimes Lord Chaitanya, Krishna puts devotees in difficulty to glorify them, like we see with Srila Prabhupada's pastimes, when Prabhupada was coming across the ocean, having his heart attacks, and showed his determination, came to New York with nothing. Then one may say, you know, why didn't Krishna make it easier for Prabhupada? But Krishna was glorifying Prabhupada by that particular test. So then finally, the final information I have at the sannyas ceremony of Lord Chaitanya asked Mukunda to sing, and Lord Chaitanya himself danced at the sannyas ceremony. So that's Mukunda Datta. And as far as Kholaveca Sridhara is concerned, it's described that previously he was Kusumasava Saka, that's usually Madhumangal, and that's from the Gauragada Dashtipika. Kavikarna Kapoor's book that describes the identity of different associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So anyway, there's so many references about that. So he was very poor financially, and he used to make his living by selling bananas, banana flowers, stems, and leaves. And even though he made very, very little money, you can imagine how much money he would make just by selling things that grow everywhere. You know, it's not that he was the only one. If you've ever been to West Bengal, there's banana trees everywhere. In fact, there's so many banana trees that in the old days when we used to take prasadam, you'd take a banana leaf and you eat on a banana leaf. Nowadays they have leaf plates with plastic in between them. So can you imagine making your living selling things that everybody has in abundance? I mean, that's actually incredible. You just pick bananas everywhere. I remember one time I was in Fiji, and it was time for breakfast, and the stores were all closed, and the devotees were in anxiety. And I said to the devotees, you know, what's that tree? And they said, that's a banana tree. And I said, what grows on it? They said, bananas. And I said, pick it. And I said, what's that tree? Papaya tree. What grows on that? Papayas. You know, they lived there, but they couldn't figure out. They thought supermarkets were much better than trees. Anyway. So he'd make his living, and he spent half of the money, even though he made practically nothing, for worshiping the Ganges and half on his living expenses. He's very, very honest. He had a fixed price for selling everything, and he never allowed bargaining. So he wasn't of a particular ethnic origin. So Lord Chaitanya, though, he liked to bargain. He would come to Kholaveca Sridhara, and he would haggle over the price of the goods. And he would say, give them for half price, they're no good. And so there was like a fight between him and Kholaveca Sridhara, that he would snatch it. Lord Chaitanya would snatch it, I'm paying you half the price. And Kholaveca would just bring it, take it back. Can you imagine? What a nice pastime. And so finally, Kholaveca Sridhara thought, just let him take it for free. He's a Brahmin. This is just harassing me all day long. So the Lord has described that Lord Chaitanya would sometimes spend several hours a day joking like that with Kholaveca Sridhara. And this is an interesting conversation I'm just going to read. He said, Sridhara, you were always chanting the Lord's name, so what is the reason for your suffering? You were serving the husband and master of Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, so why are you always in want of food and clothes? I'm not starving, replied Sridhara, and as you can see, I have clothes on. They are neither fine clothes nor the right size, but my body is covered. But Sridhara, argued the Lord, the clothes are torn in several places, and I know you have neither straw nor rice in the house. Look around you. All the citizens worship goddess Chandi. He's testing him, Durga, the destroyer of all your enemies. And none of them suffer for want of food, shelter, or clothing. You made a good point, replied Sridhara, but generally speaking, everyone's life is almost the same. The king may live in a palace surrounded by opulence and eat sumptuously while the birds live in the open, or in a simple nest on a treetop and gather their own humble food. But basically, everyone's approach to life is similar. By the Lord's design, each of us must meet the demands of duty, and in doing so, we behave more or less alike. Personally, I prefer to live the life I am leading now. So much determination. I am sure you have immense wealth hidden somewhere, accused the Lord, and you are relishing opulent food in secret. Soon I will make it known to everyone, and then we will see how you continue to cheat the people. Come to my house, dear learned Brahmin, invited Sridhara, and see for yourself. We should not start an argument here. I'm not going to let you off so easily, said Nimai. Tell me, what are you going to feed me? I make a simple living selling leaf cups, replied Sridhara. What can I offer to give you from such an income, respected Brahmin? I'm not going to touch your hidden wealth now. That I will get later, assured Nimai. But if you give me banana root and some banana stalks right now without taking money, then I will not fight with you anymore. And Sridhara was thinking, oh my God, he's really an aggressive Brahmin. He might beat me. And what can I do? He's a Brahmin. He's free to do anything. And Sridhara said, dear Brahmin, you do not have to pay me anything. I will give you whatever you want with an open and happy heart. Take your bananas and other vegetables. Take the leaf cups that I have, and please do not fight with me anymore. And Lord Chaitanya said, yes, that is a very satisfactory arrangement. There should be no further fights, but please see to it that I get good quality bananas, banana stalk, and radish every day. And it's described that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had Mother Sachi cook these different ingredients every day with milk and hot spices and enjoy it. And another interesting exchange. One day, Lord Chaitanya asked Sridhara, what do you think of me? As soon as you tell me that, I shall return to my house. And Sridhara said, you're Brahmin, part and parcel, the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, you don't know. I belong to the community of cowards and milkmen. You see me as a young Brahmin boy, but I consider myself to be simply a milkman. And Sridhara just like, what is he talking about? And then Lord Chaitanya said, I'm going to reveal to you an esoteric truth. You see the river Ganges? I'm the source of the Ganga. And so Sridhara was thinking, this guy is really crazy. I better be careful about it. Oh, Nimai Pandit, I have you no fear of disrespecting Ganga Devi like this? People usually become grave and serious as they grow older, but your frivolity seems to have doubled since your childhood. And it's described that Kholaveca Sridhara would always be walking along chanting the Lord's holy names. Devotees would sometimes join him. And atheists, because Sridhara was from a lower class family, would sometimes hurl insults and even stones at them. But the devotees went on chanting the holy names of the Lord. One of the final pastimes, well, actually there's several pastimes, is that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one time when he was dancing and chanting in ecstasy, he went to Sridhara's house, and he saw an old metal pot that was so, let's say, bent in so many places and patched in so many places that nobody would steal it. And he saw it was filled with water, and he picked it up, and he proceeded to drink water from it. And Sridhar got very upset. He said, you're going to destroy me, drinking water out of my pot. And today, Lord Chaitanya said, today finally I've attained devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord simply by drinking water from Sridhar's pot. And this pastime is very important because it showed that one shouldn't discriminate amongst devotees based upon their varna or external situation. One should actually see the internal love and attachment the devotee has for Krishna. And if you take the remnants of such a devotee, of course, there's very powerful substances, which Srila Prabhupada said, the foot bathing water, prasadam remnants, etc., like that, and the foot dust of pure devotees can actually give you pure love of Godhead very, very quickly. I remember, of course, when I would walk with Prabhupada on the beach, I would eat the sand in his footprints. Everyone thought I was crazy. So, let's see, final pastime. When the Lord exhibited his Mahaprakash, which we talked about before with Mukunda, when Mukunda wasn't able to come in, he was calling for all the different devotees, and then he finally called for Sridhar. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu welcomed him. Sridhar, he said, you have performed immense austerity to attain me. In your previous birth, you have dedicated yourself entirely to my service. Every day I partake of food on your banana leaves offered by you. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his form as Lord Krishna carrying the flute to Sridhar, Kholaveca or Sridhar, and Balaram was at his side, and Lakshmi Devi was offering betel nut, and there was Ananta Dev sheltering the Lord with his hood. Sridhar had this vision, manifestation. While Lord Brahma was there, Lord Shiva was there, Narada, Shuka, and Sanaka were there singing hymns, and there were charming young girls who offered prayers with folded hands. He saw this. Lord Chaitanya manifested this to him. Sridhar was like thunderstruck by this exhibition. And Lord Chaitanya said, ask for any benediction, any boon you want. Today I shall bestow upon you anything, even Ashta Siddhi, the eightfold powers. Sridhar refused to ask for anything material. He said, my Lord, since you are forcing me to accept a boon, I request that the Brahmana who used to snatch my banana leaves may remain my worshipful Lord eternally. With arms raised, Sridhar burst into tears, and then the Lord granted Sridhar's desire, and Sridhar used to participate in the street sankirtan led by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And later on, when the devotees visited the Lord in Jagannath Puri, he would go there every year with the devotees. Any questions or comments? Yeah. Yeah. I remember that story too. Yeah, because he wanted to taste the ingredients given by Sridhar and have his mother cook for him because he knew he was going to take sannyas the next day. Yeah, I remember that story too. Okay, any other stories or pastimes? We got about half a minute. Yes?
I was just thinking, it's interesting, the reverse roles that Krishna's ostensibly Vaishya and Radharani's ostensibly Brahmana, and in this Leela,
Yeah, reverses.
Sridhar is apparently Vaishya and
That's an interesting realization. You're reversing, Madhu Mangal, the Brahmin, Krishna the Vaishya, and now Madhu Mangal's, now Madhu Mangal has now become a Vaishya, and Krishna has become a Brahmin. Very nice. Okay, on that happy note, all glories to Kholaveca, our Sridhara Mukunda Datta, and all glories to His Divine Grace to the Prabhupada. Jai Shri Shri Radhagolokananda Ki Jai.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kanda Akopi Kamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Vipan Vikayanti Jiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Namaho Vishnu Vishaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Samaniti Namane Om Vishnu Vishaya Krishna Prasthaya Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachane Deva Seshan Yavaradeva Sachade Sacharane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Nana Punichan Nanda Sri Advaita Gadada Srivasagare Gaurata Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana, Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Govinda Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana, Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. It's Hey, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parapitacharya also Tada Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Savaya Chatanara Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anandakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Mathuram Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Lasadevi Ki Jai, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Puru Stay Saraswati Nivasesa Nirmade. What's Saturday's retarded? Okay, Sikshastika.